Hi everyone! MEEDEN sent me a bunch of goodies to try and play with, and today I'm going to introduce you to all of them and I'll give you my honest opinion whether I like them or not. So let's get started. We're going to start with a set of watercolor brushes. There are 10 brushes, several rounds with different sizes, some detailed ones, a couple of flat brushes, a glazing brush, I guess. It's like a flat brush but with longer bristles, and then there's a fan brush as well. So they are really pretty. The barrels only show the name and it doesn't show the, usually brushes have the name of the type of brush that it is around the flat and the size. These don't, but honestly, you know, you kind of know by looking at it what size you need to paint, so that's really not a problem. I just really like their design and how pretty they are, and I hope they work as well as they look. Then we have a 20 sheet block of 100% cotton watercolor paper. It's cold press and it's 10 by 7 inches. I'm really excited about that. I heard a lot of good things about it, so I can't wait to paint on it. It's glued on all sides with the top side that has a little opening, so you can use a palette knife to unglue the paper. But MEEDEN also sent me a really cool tool that looks like a leaf that you can use instead of a palette knife to release each sheet of paper as you paint them, which is really neat. As with most watercolor blocks, the first page is only a protection. It's not a watercolor paper, so you can remove it. And I tested that little leaf to see how well it works. It works actually pretty well. But again, you can use a palette knife if you don't have one of those handy tools. Then comes a watercolor set of 24 tubes. They are non-toxic, and on the back you can see all the different colors, as well as whether they are light fast, transparent or opaque, and the pigment numbers. According to that chart, all of them are very light fast, and there's only one transparent color. The others are either semi-transparent or opaque. And half of them have either one pigment or two. I didn't find any that had more than two pigments. The tubes are good size. They're 12 mil, and there seem to be a nice variety of colors. They also have the name of the colors on them, as well as all the pigment information, the transparency, and the light fastness. I also received a portable palette. It's all black. It's the classic metal portable palette. It has a ring in the back so that you can slide a finger in it to hold it nicely. When you open it, you have two mixing surfaces on each side, and it came with 24 half pans. Actually, I think there are 26 half pans, and you can also put some half pans in the middle, or either put your brushes or put little magnets, glue little magnets in the back of the half pans and put them in the middle. You can remove the tray and you get an extra mixing area. You can also remove those half pans and change the orders, or I like to write things on the side, you know, the name of the colors and the name of the brand. And as you can see, I've got quite a few. I've bought a lot of MEEDEN small palettes over the years. I've always liked them, so I'm excited to have a new one, and that's the bigger one, which will be nice. And finally, I received a set of 24 gouache tubes, again non-toxic. It really looks just like the box of watercolors. On the back it shows all the different colors, the pigment information, transparency, and light fastness. Again with these, except for a couple colors that have only 2 little stars, all the other ones have 3 stars, which leads me to believe they are all pretty light fast. It looks like all but 3 colors are opaque, and those 3 colors are semi-opaque, which sound pretty good. And this time most of them have 2 pigments, except a few that only have 1 pigment. Again, there seems to be a very nice selection of colors. The tubes are also 12 mil, and each tube again has the color name, pigment information, light fastness, and opacity. So the gouache, I did swatches, and I did draw a black line with a Sharpie, and I noticed that a lot of them aren't as opaque as I had hoped. Some of them are really nice and creamy, and some of them are a little stickier. So I guess it really depends on the pigment that is used, and then the fillers. The gray is really nice and creamy, and there's one that is called pink, and it's a bright neon pink. And the tube says that it has 2 little stars, so a somewhat good light fastness. However, neon colors are notorious for not being light fast at all because they are man-made colors. They're not found in nature, and they usually aren't light fast. So that, and the fact that most colors are said to be opaque and most colors aren't, I would just take the markings on those tubes with a grain of salt, because I'm really not sure how light fast they really are, and I know for sure that they aren't as opaque as I thought they would be. So just be cautious. So for this video I decided to do a demonstration of the gouache. I found a nice reference picture on Pixabay, and I'm using some toned paper. It's the Strathmore Mixed Media Tantone sketchbook that I have. I did do a watercolor painting with the watercolor paper. I'll make another video. I didn't want this video to be way too long, so for now I'm just gonna review the gouache and the brushes. Now, I'm pretty familiar with MEEDEN as a company, as far as a company that sells art tools rather than supplies. Like I said earlier, I bought quite a few metal palettes that I really like, and the half pans to put in them, I bought a lot of extra ones. I also have a porcelain palette. They have really good ones, and they're very affordable. Everything they have is really affordable, and my favorite of all is a studio easel that I really like. So MEEDEN has been part of my studio for many years, and I've never been disappointed. So using actual art supplies was actually a fun opportunity, and MEEDEN actually gave me a bit more information about those products. They said that their watercolor and gouache pigments are of student level quality, so you can't expect professional quality with those paints. They clearly state that they are student level. The watercolor paper is made by the same manufacturer as the Bao Hong paper and is academic level. So it actually looks really good, and when I used it with watercolor, I thought it was a pretty good paper. Is it professional? I wouldn't go that far, but it's pretty nice. And honestly, if I were to choose between that cotton paper and the Strathmore 400 series, the cellulose one, I would go with the MEEDEN, because I would always go for 100% cotton paper. It's so much nicer to work with than a cellulose paper, in my opinion. So their focus is on delivering value for their cost, and they are designed for beginners. So first thing first, I quite enjoyed using their brushes. I think they work great with the gouache. Some of them are a little soft and I'm not as used to use them, but I mostly use the flat one, which is what I usually use with gouache. The round ones are very pointy and I'm not used to that, but it's really good for details. And all in all, I didn't find that they shed any bristles. They seem pretty good. The one that I mostly use for this painting is now all stained, unfortunately. But yeah, I quite like those brushes. And now for the paint, it's not bad, but it's definitely not what I'm used to use. I use professional quality gouaches, like the professional brands, which are usually nice and creamy and opaque. These aren't it. Some of the colors are, but some of them, like all the greens, like that whole field, I had a very hard time painting it because it was very sticky, and I really had to work it. It was easier to do the sky, and it's probably because I mixed the paint with the white that's usually a bit more opaque. But yeah, I struggled, but then, you know, when you had difficulties, you try to adapt and make it work. So that's what I did. And in the end, I'm pretty happy with the painting. One other thing I struggled with is actually with the brushes. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it didn't do what I wanted it to do, you know. For the field, I was trying to give an impression of tall grass, and to do that, I was trying to spread the damp bristles on my flat brush to have an uneven texture, but they kept on getting back together. So they're very bouncy, they're very springy. You know, they didn't stay in place, and I had the same problem with the fan brush, where it gave me a texture that was way too even. But other than that, you know, I didn't have any problem with them. So here's the watercolor that I painted, and I do have mixed feelings. I could tell for sure that the watercolor is student grade. When doing the swatches, they looked nice and bright and very pretty. But again, I didn't have the same experience as when using professional colors, which I should not be expecting that, knowing that they are student grade. They did work well enough, but I did have to add quite a few layers to have a nice bright painting. I struggled with my values, and I don't know if it was just that painting in particular, if it was the paper, if it was the paint. All in all, the painting is nice, I think, but it's not, I'm not 100% happy with it. It could be that maybe I painted it too big, but I'm gonna have to try again. And I want to use professional watercolors on this paper to see if I can feel a difference or not. I did enjoy using it, and it feels like the paint doesn't spread as fast or as far on this paper as on another cotton paper like Arche, for instance. But it's quite nice if you're trying to work on details. It's a bit easier to control. And my ultimate test is I often scrub some paint off the paper at the end of my paintings to give it more highlights. And it took the scrubbing really well. It didn't peel, it didn't damage the paper, so that's actually a big plus. And considering all the layers that I added, it did really well. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much, MEEDEN, for sending me all those goodies. It was fun to play with them. I'll put the link of all these supplies in the video description box in case you're interested. And for now, I thank you all for stopping by. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to support this channel and you're feeling extra generous, you can always click on the thanks button right next to the share button. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye bye.